She stood at the edge of her wedding day with her hands shaking, not from excitement, but from fear. At just 19, her future had been decided by voices louder than her own. The man waiting for her at the altar was a stranger, and the town had already made up its mind about how this story would end. Everyone expected tears, bitterness, and regret. No one expected kindness. And no one, absolutely no one, expected the gift that would change her life and silence an entire town. Before the story continues, take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us keep bringing meaningful stories to life here on Soul Tales, where kindness always finds its way through the darkest moments. Her name was Naomi Carter, and she grew up in a small southern town where people smiled to your face and judged you the moment you turned away. Naomi was bright, soft-spoken, and full of dreams that didn't fit neatly into the boxes the town preferred. She wanted to study nursing. She wanted to leave. She wanted to choose her own life. But dreams don't always survive poverty and pressure. When her mother fell ill and the bills piled up, the family was offered a solution they felt they couldn't refuse: a marriage proposal from a man named Thomas Hale. He was older, quiet, and known mostly for keeping to himself. He owned a modest piece of land and a small hardware store. To Naomi, he was a stranger with a serious face and unreadable eyes. She said no, more than once. But no didn't matter. At 19, Naomi was married against her will. On her wedding day, she wore a borrowed dress and a forced smile. People whispered as she walked down the aisle. Some said she was lucky. Others said she was trapped. A few shook their heads, already certain the marriage would fail. Naomi felt like she was walking into a life-sized cage. That first night, she sat on the edge of the bed in the small house Thomas owned on the outskirts of town. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure he could hear it. She had been warned by others to be careful, to be obedient, to expect nothing good. Thomas stood by the window for a long moment before finally speaking. "You don't have to be afraid," he said quietly. "I won't touch you unless you want me to." Naomi didn't answer. She didn't know what to say. She just stared at the floor, unsure if kindness could be trusted. Days turned into weeks. Thomas cooked his own meals and left Naomi space. He asked what she liked to eat. He asked what music she enjoyed. When she didn't answer, he didn't push. When she cried at night, he pretended not to hear, giving her dignity instead of questions. The town watched closely. Some neighbors said Thomas was cold. Others said Naomi was ungrateful. People expected shouting, bruises, or at least gossip-worthy drama, but none came. Instead, Naomi noticed small things. Thomas fixed the loose step on the porch without being asked. He left books on the table when he learned she liked reading. When she mentioned missing her mother, he drove her across town without complaint, waiting patiently in the car. Slowly, fear gave way to confusion. One evening, Naomi finally asked the question burning inside her. "Why did you marry me?" she said. Thomas took a deep breath. "Because I was asked to help," he replied, "and because I believed you deserved safety, not control." That night, something inside Naomi shifted. Months passed, and Naomi began working part-time at the library. Thomas encouraged her to save money, even opening a small account in her name only. The town noticed, but they didn't understand. Kindness like this didn't fit their expectations. Then came the anniversary of their first year of marriage. Naomi expected nothing. She had learned not to hope too loudly. That morning, Thomas handed her a small envelope. Inside was a set of papers. At first, she didn't understand what she was reading. Then her hands began to shake again, this time for a different reason. The papers were a deed, ownership of the house, in her name. Along with it was a letter. It said, "This home is yours, so is your future. If you choose to stay, it will be because you want to. If you choose to leave, you will leave with dignity, security, and no debt. I promised myself I would never be another cage in your life." Naomi couldn't breathe. Words spread fast. In a town where secrets lived longer than people, this one exploded. Neighbors gathered. Whispers turned into stunned silence. No one had ever heard of a man giving his wife, not control, not conditions, but freedom. People who once judged Naomi now looked at her with something close to respect, and people who dismissed Thomas began to question their own ideas of strength. Naomi cried that night, but not from fear. For the first time, she felt seen. She didn't leave, not because she had to, but because she chose to. Over time, Naomi went back to school. Thomas supported her every step, cheering quietly from the sidelines. When she graduated, the entire town attended, not out of obligation, but admiration. Years later, when Naomi stood before a group of young women sharing her story, she didn't talk about pain first. She talked about kindness. She said kindness isn't loud. It doesn't demand praise. Sometimes it simply opens a door and steps back. The town never forgot that gift, and neither did Naomi. Because kindness didn't just change her marriage, it gave her back her life. And sometimes, the most powerful gift isn't love that holds tight, but love that lets go. If this story moved you, let it remind you that kindness can rewrite even the hardest beginnings. Carry it forward, share it freely, and be the reason someone else believes in a better ending.